guitar, a microphone, and she said I'll go far. She said just keep it raw, the lyrics hardcore. Listen to my talking guitar, I'm on the corner with my...
Hey kids, gather around. It's Wyclef and Melchizedek. I got a story to tell. Here we go.
Sit right back and hear a tale of a hustler around my way, who used to clock around the block from where my grandma stayed.
I dedicate this record, The Carnival, to all you brothers.
Not your pomade, not your break no sound. At the pomade underground.
Welcome.
Magic coming, really coming down. In Bed by City, it makes my heart beat no sound, beat no sound, beat no sound, beat no sound, beat no sound. And let me tell myself, down on, she tell my dad. My job for me, my job get me through. With magic money, people seem to walk through you. Magic's funny, magic get me through. I'll get from me, where people seem to always walk through you, 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 walk through you. Let me tell myself, down on, she tell my dada, she tell my dada, she made me kill myself. Come on,
Clips to go over, and hopefully they can
come on.
Strats to use in our tracks.
She tell my dada, come on. She tell my dada, come on. She tell my dada, she tell my
to put yourself in a good position so that you can win that last point. Yeah. So,
Folks,
yeah.
we have a very special guest for you
All right,
tonight.
I think we're going to start. So, this all started from about 2 weeks ago, where I wanted to do this. I had these demos already pulled and picked them out and had the ticks already figured out and everything, but turns out that I didn't have the right Mac Q mode enabled, so that didn't really work out so well. But now that I fixed some stuff and figured out some new ways to kind of get these clips to it, I think this will be more easy. This will be a lot easier for me. I won't actually have to go into TF2 and find the tick number anymore, which is cool. But the idea was that last time I was talking about comparing TF2 strategy to other games and to strategies that you learn in those other games and whether or not they're relevant and how they translate and if there is a common kind of language that we can learn among all these different strategy games. Whether they be TF2, StarCraft, chess, or whatever, any of those kinds of games, there's always going to be a strategic element, and there's a way that you can play the game that will put yourself in a better advantage to win usually. And the better players are those players that kind of use those strategies to their advantage. And so I wanted to break down kind of some of those ways to use those strategies. Today I'm focusing on ways to break stalemates in particular. So stalemate in TF2 I think would be classified as basically 6v6, 100% Uber, 100% Uber, that's traditionally what's considered a TF2 stalemate. In chess, a stalemate is actually a physical state of the game that it is actually the end of the game where one player cannot actually move because his king will be in check, or that he doesn't have a physically able move or a legally able move to make without exposing his king. And so that's actually considered a stalemate, which is a little different, but the idea is very similar in that it denotes that each player kind of has a similar score or a similar value in the game. So stalemate's traditionally considered a tie, and in TF2 a stalemate's considered equal advantage, so that's kind of like a tie at the same time. In chess there's also kind of there are stalemates in the beginning and in the middle of the game as well, but they're just not technically called stalemates. They're more called, I guess, equal standpoints or equal position. So this was kind of the images that I wanted to try to show last time, and I'll show it again real briefly. Hopefully this works. But yeah, so like in chess a long time ago, about 1600s to 1900s, so that's a long time ago, about 500 years, 400 years. Yeah, I can do math. 400 years, and it was very common to do this kind of King's Gambit opener, Queen's Gambit opening at the high level of chess, and the chess grandmasters at the time would put a lot of effort into studying these kinds of openings, and what I have shown here is basically a basic King's Gambit opening where white opens with a normal king's pawn, moving up 2 squares, which is very traditional in the day, and even today is very common, and black would respond with a even more common, same response, basically moving his pawn up to the same 2 squares. And the next move, white immediately moves his second pawn up, and this is the gambit immediately. And this is where black is allowed to take free material, basically, because this pawn can take this pawn for free. Black basically gets a whole piece immediately at the beginning of the game for free. But the idea is that white's going to build a positional advantage out of that, that'll kind of offset it and be able to give white an eventual advantage. And this is kind of the same kind of idea that we have in TF2, where at times we need to trade players as suicide players, or to be aggressive, or to be passive, I guess. But in cases where we want to gain something else, so like if we want the other team to pop Uber, we might have to sacrifice and suicide some people. So that's kind of the idea that I think in chess there are these kind of sacrifice plays, and in TF2 there are also these sacrifice plays. So that's why I think there are a lot of similarities. So that's why now we're going to go to kind of these demos now. So I pulled some clips up. I want to transition this into kind of what you guys think stalemates are in TF2 and how to break the stalemates in kind of an efficient means. And I think this kind of breaks down on a map-to-map basis. This isn't always going to be the same advice depending on what map you're playing. And so today I have clips of just Granary, Badlands, and Snakewater. And so we're going to be able to look at kind of, the lasts on these maps. Like for Granary, and say you are in a stalemate, pushing last, which is a very common situation again. How do you break that stalemate, and what's a good play to call as a medic or as a pocket soldier for your 6v6 team to break the stalemate or to give yourself an advantage to be able to win that last point. And I'm going to show 2 clips of Granary. There's one clip of Badlands, and basically Badlands is the same thing, where the last point, you have this point underneath this tube basically, where there's area above the point and kind of, some surrounding it, but there's a lot of space for the demo to spam, there's a lot of space for the soldiers to spam onto the spot. So this last is a little unique as well. But basically I'm going to show one strat from Badlands, and I'm going to show 2 strats for Snakewater last, and Snakewater last I think gets a lot of bad credit because people say that it's really, really hard to push. So a lot of teams have tried just really, really aggressive suicides, like 3 to 4 man suicides. So I'm going to show a couple of those from Season 12 land. So let's just get right to it, I guess. So let's do it. So this will be the first map, which will be, let's see, what did we say? Let's do Snakewater first, yes. So if we do Snakewater first, we'll do the 3-man first, I think. That's the first one. Let's make sure you guys are seeing what I see. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So this is basically the clip that I've already taken before, and I'm going to hopefully talk over. But before we even show it, I want to kind of give the background. So basically what this is season 12, I think, LAN on Snakewater, where it's mix-up versus, yeah, I think this is season 12. It might have been, no, this might be season 13. Not sure. And anyway, so it's mix-up versus Space Whales, and it's Snakewater. I think this is season 12. And Pure has 83%, which is, he's about to get Uber. He's building it. His team is one. They're at the enemy's second point, so they already have the forward advantage. But the enemy medic, Mezer, has a full Uber percent, 100% Uber. So he's going to have Uber, and he's going to be able to hold this very defensive Snakewater last. And we're going to see what Pure does. And the plan is basically to bomb his scout and his demo, I think, in this case. Let's see what happens. And his roamer. So we're going to watch this. See if something's wrong. Hold on. There we go. Yes, here we go. Alright, so, like I was saying, here we go. This is the clip. 3-man suicide mix-up. So again, they build their Uber, they make sure they get their Uber. They know that the enemy team has Uber, and they're going to call for everyone to get buffs. So right now TLR is playing passive. He's going to be staying back in Platinum Bombs with Harblu, and together with Harblu and the Scout and the demo, they were able to get the pop. And now this is where Pure is all the way back. So this is why it's kind of an advantage, is that now the enemy team has to kind of push into 3 people with no Uber. And it's going to be very hard with this nice positioning by Pure and this good DM by TLR and Ruin. Unfortunately, Ruin does go down, so it's going to slow this down and kind of make this defense harder. And I think Pure is going to be forced to pop soon. Yes, so he actually has to pop. So it's at this point where they're going to be able to push back in. And look, Mezer doesn't have Uber. Again, so they don't win it right away. And now this is where I'm going to pause it, and this is where I give my kind of 5 cents. It's like, let me put you on the screen. Yeah, you can see me anyway. Alright, that's cool. My 5 cents. So there's a bunch of points in these 2 Snakewater clips in particular, where you know, they do the suicide play like they just did, but they don't necessarily win right away. Like the win on the follow-up. And I think watching the follow-up is actually important. So even though they don't win right away off of that suicide play and off that repush, they're going to be able to give themselves good ground and actually put the momentum in their court. They kind of have momentum right now. And how's Enigma's going to respond by going heavy, kind of sealing the deal hopefully. So Mezer meanwhile is actually pushing out with almost 100%. He's forced. So he goes down to Harblu. So Harblu makes a big play, and so there's no medic right now, so Enigma actually ends up tearing it up. And they are eventually going to win this, again, but not exactly right after the initial suicide play. But again, the Mayhem kind of came out, the Alpha classes came out, we see 2 heavies, and it kind of, this is kind of where Enigma wanted it. He wanted it to shine in this kinds of moments. And this is what Mix-Up kind of wanted. And now they have full Uber percent against basically nothing. And they're going to be able to repush. And with the heavy, it's important to understand how to repush with the heavy. So Enigma's, in this case, going to go lower and seal kind of this lower. And TLR is going to take the medic up top. And so they're going to do a split push with the heavy lower. And I think this ends up working out pretty good. Yeah, so Enigma gets out a lot of damage. He's going to pick up a lot of frags. And him and Ruin stay alive. And they are able to cap easily. So again, even though they didn't actually cap right away, the momentum was in their favor and they capped pretty soon after. So it did kind of break the stalemate. And that's kind of what to expect a lot of times, especially if you're doing a 3-man suicide or a 4-man suicide. Those are really aggressive plays. So the next one, they're going to even do a 4-man suicide. This is the same map. We're going to watch basically the same kind of same kind of situation, but this time they're going to call for a 4-man suicide. And the reason why he can do the 4-man right away is because Enigma's already heavy. So last time he had TLR on pocket playing passive, but this time TLR is allowed to bomb. So that's the 4th extra man. And that leaves Pure and Enigma way back with Uber. And they're trying to be sneaky. But it's only them two right now. So eventually they're going to get forced. They get forced by the scout on the flank. And again, even though they lost their Uber, it's still pretty good for them. This is good position. They get forward spawn still. They defend the point easily. There's no way Blue's really going to push second when they have a heavy. So this puts them up in a good situation. And again, this is where I'd pause and give my 5 cents and say that, like, the rest of this kind of thing is after the fact. We have already seen the suicide play, or no, have we? Yeah, maybe not. No, wait, I don't think we have yet. We will see. No. Yeah, so there's a bunch of repushes with heavy, but we'll see. Let's just watch the whole thing. That's the idea. Yeah, so they did already do the suicide, but now it's another stalemate. And so it's kind of like, what do they do now? They can't do the same thing, really, because, I mean, they might be ready for it, maybe. But I think they're just going to try to YOLO it, or try to get a pick, and it turns out, I think it backfires. Yeah, so Pure goes down, and that actually doesn't do a lot of good for mix-up for the time being, but they're going to be able to repush. And I think it's because Enigma, again, you have to have players that can handle these kinds of ridiculous situations, and Enigma's really good at that. Yeah, so with Harbler and Enigma in a good spot, they're able to take down the medic. And again, the off-classing and the forward position, and just the good overall position, even though they lost their medic, gave them that kind of advantage to be able to pick the med. And now that gives Pure enough room. This is where, again, now that they really do have good advantage, this is where you got to make it count. You got to make sure this push counts. So again, I think they still have the heavy. He might still, no, he spawned scout. So idea with pushing with the scouts is good to have 2 scouts when you actually do want to push. And now it's up to TLR and with the Uber. And he gets popped and he's going to jump right. No, he jumps left, sorry, and he gets the scout right away. But he's going to kind of cross over this right side and eventually get the med and clean up a lot of this. Yep. Good place. So, yeah, once you do have the advantage, you want to be able to group up like a team like that and execute. Really good execution. Yeah, so that was Snakewater, which is, again, a very defensive last with, the spawn being so close where you can jump and spawn anytime and switch sides, which is kind of frustrating, but, and also with the abundance of heavies and NGs, gets kind of crazy. So I wanted to also do Granary. So I picked two demos to watch for Granary. One is actually one of my own demos, so I got to execute one of these strats in a match, so I wanted to show it because it's pretty awesome. So this is kind of the Granary last push that I like to use, and it's a 3-man suicide, and then you have to have one of your scouts go heavy beforehand. And the idea is that if you have Uber and the enemy team has Uber, you only want to make the medic pop, so that the recurring push, the enemy's going to think that there's only 2 or 3 people up versus 6 people supposedly, so they're going to repush and they're not going to realize that your medic has a heavy hiding up top in the lunchbox. So that's kind of the strat, but let's see it in action. So this is a couple of seasons ago in a ESEA open match, and let's see. Yeah, I have to fast forward and remember. Okay, so here we go. So again, this is a stalemate. We're stuck. Clutch is our medic. He has 100%. I'm playing Pocket Soldier right now. We're on the red team pushing the blue on Granary. And again, so the play's being called. We already have one of our scouts has gone heavy. And we're rotating into the garage. We're going to go meet our scout who has gone heavy, hiding up here. And now this is where the pocket gets the buff. Everyone gets buffs if they can, and they're going to bomb. So it's a 3-man bomb. We're leaving our demo behind with our heavy and medic. And the idea is just to get the med pop. So Oki goes down, and then Rill goes down, but with their help, I'm able to get the med pop. And so that gives us, again, the ground and the Uber, that advantage to hold second, even though the other team doesn't realize it. So right here, Alex heavy, he's going to be able to jump down, immediately mow down 2 people. The medic's going to run away and eventually get picked by our demo. Sauce. So Sauce chases down the medic, I think. Yeah, but he does go down. So we do eventually get the medic, and now it's going to be real easy last push. Like, we still have a heavy, we still have our medic. The other team already lost the medic. Yeah, so a really good play, I think. And pretty simple to execute, but a lot of you got to be sneaky about it. You don't want to show the heavy, you don't want to show the medic. And you don't really want them to know that it's a suicide right away. You want that medic to use the Uber. So I also picked the Crits Krieg on Granary, so this is a little bit of a different demo. Let's see. Yeah, so this is from, I think, season 13 now. I want to check. Yeah, no, this is season 12. First fully torqued, so now it's mixed up versus fully torqued. And let me make sure this is still working. Yes. Hello. Okay, so screen. Yeah. So now here's Hard Blue. So now this is the Chris Creek play. I'm going to pause it. So this is season 12. Blue is mixed up and they're pushing into, fully torqued to the red on Granary last. And they have Crits Creek this time. They have already used Crits Creek on mid, so red knows they have Crits Creek. Hard Blue's going to stick with it. He really uses Crits Creek a lot, and I think he uses it really well. And this is kind of a really good example of how to use crits effectively with your team. So what he's going to do is he's going to eventually suicide 2 of his roamers. So basically, the problem is now that even though he has crits, he's going to build crits. The fragile is the enemy medic. He's able to escape, and he still has 90% Uber. So what we're going to see here is that, so fragile is going to be able to build Uber, and eventually this crits is going to come. But how are they going to use it? So the advantage is really to bomb, Ruin, and Hard Blue. So that's going to come down right now. So Ruin and Hard Blue are going to bomb. So bomb 2 people to get the pop, and they get the pop really well, and they distract really well, and take up all the attention of the pocket. And meanwhile, Hard Blue actually rotated the pocket right side, and they let the crits go off with Platinum, the demo, and TLR. The Pocket Soldier is going to be able to clean up all this. All these people are lit, so it's going to be pretty easy. Yeah, and that's it. So a really good crits push on Granary last that I found, so I wanted to show it. Sweet. And so that leaves our last map, which is Badlands. And I have 1 clip from Badlands, and then that's going to be it. And then I think next week I'll do something, but we'll talk about that later, I guess. I haven't really figured it out. So we have 1 map left. It's Badlands, and I picked 2 perspectives for this one. So I picked what match did I pick? All right, so this is Top Guns versus Runway 5 on Badlands from this season, so season 14 in Invite, and so it's earlier in the season when Badlands was actually played, and they have a pretty awesome last push right at the beginning of the map, and I want to look at it from the roamer perspective first, because it's mostly the roamer doing the most important part of getting up the tube. But basically the idea is to jump the roamer up the tube that's above the point as kind of a distraction, and hopefully beforehand you have spammed the stickies out from underneath, and hopefully your demo has also put his own stickies on the point, so that when the roamer jumps up, the other team collapses on the point and you can get out tons and tons of damage, and that makes your push really effective. So this is something they were able to execute in Invite, and I want to look at it. So first we're going to do again the roamer perspective. So the roamer in this situation is Grape. We're going to watch Grape Cam. And here we go. So they haven't started, so this is going to take a while before they actually set up the play, but I kind of want to show you how it progresses. So here they finally get the top lobby. They know that it's going to be a stalemate because the enemy team has 100% Uber, as does Ninja Nick. And the play is, I think, getting called out right now, so Grape's getting called to kind of, let's have Grape jump up the tube, you know, let's use that set play, jump up the tube with the roamer, then we'll follow in. But we got to get the sticks off first. So Grape's going to get the ammo, he's going to rotate through lower, and he's going to spam the sticks off. And the scout's kind of helping him, but Grape's going to do a lot of this himself. He's going to get a lot of those stickies off, and I don't think the demo really notices a lot. He puts a couple more back up, but Grape's going to be able to get those off. And meanwhile, Pioro is able to get some stickies on there. I think he's lobbying them right now. So here comes, here's the play. And now Grape jumps up, and he's going to be able to spam down, and with Pure's help gets the kill. And the follow-up push, which we're going to see from the pocket soldier perspective in a little bit, wins point really easily, because there's no stickies on point, and all the enemy teams in one spot. And I'm going to show that with this, hold on. So yeah, so this is the same thing, but from the pocket soldier perspective. So now we're watching Z Brian, the pocket soldier. Yeah, so basically Z Brian is just spamming, making sure nobody dies, protecting his sniper, and making everyone group up. And now again the call is being made for Grape to rotate lower. He's going to go lower and spam and try to get those stickies off. Meanwhile, Pure's trying to get his collection of stickies on the point without them noticing too much. And as soon as the stickies are off, I think the stickies are almost off. Grape's almost ready to jump. He's going to get the buff, so he's going to come and get the buff. Now you can let the roamer go. And meanwhile, Z-Brian's going to push another angle, and he's going to be able to do lots of damage. He actually gets the med to drop right there, which is pretty sweet. And then he's able to follow up with his own med and get the Uber and do tons and tons of damage. And Ninja Nick just kept the point. Easy, easy, easy. That's kind of what was behind it. So all that work by Grape, really effective in giving his team that advantage, that positional advantage. And then they followed it up, and they went around. Yeah. So that was it. So that's my clips. I like that clip. That Badlands Tube one. So that's 30 minutes. That's about what I was aiming for. Next time I'm going to try to shift to Tuesday, I think. I don't think I want to do Thursdays so much. Tuesdays might be better. So I'm going to try to keep this schedule for now. And then if I cast Thursdays or do something Thursdays, I'll throw it up on Twitch. TV VOD, again, I like the fact of just having the VOD so people can click them even if they weren't around. So hopefully